Hey everyone, welcome to the Foreclosure Guy podcast. I'm Bill. If you or someone you know is facing foreclosure or you've gotten yourself into a situation you never thought you'd be in, you're not alone. I help people understand their options, avoid the scammers, and find a path to ultimately keeping their home. So glad you got to keep your house, right, for you and your 3 kiddos. But you touched on something earlier about your health struggles. Can I ask how that's going?
I have gotten the all clear, ring the bell kind of treatment. I still have to follow up yearly with exams, labs and doctors. But I feel pretty good about where we're at right now. So I think we're moving in the right direction. And then my one, who had brain surgery, he is, recovered and doing much better. He had a lot of pressure on the brain. And actually they went in and punched a hole in the 3rd ventricle so the fluid would drain. And so now he has much better mobility and language.
Wow, I don't say all that. That sounds like a great blessing. He's making improvements.
Yeah, he's making improvements and I feel good. And we're just kind of moving forward in a positive thing. It was very nice to be able to tell my kids, we're having Christmas this year. And your birthday and those kinds of things, some stability for them is really the most important.
Sure.
So I greatly appreciate everything you've done, that you stepped in. My original foreclosure date was very close to when I met with you. And so he was able to get that pushed off a week so that we could get the agreement in order and in place and the reinstatement paid.
Yeah. Well, it warms my heart to know that all these great things have happened for you, Lynn. Your health has improved, your son's health and your situation. And of course, right, that you actually got to have Christmas. Let's not gloss over that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because they're 8 and 11, so that's a big thing for them.
Yeah. I remember Christmas as a kid. I mean, what was more important than that, right?
Right.
And
that was my biggest fear is what if we have to leave this house, where are we going to go? We don't have a lot of family around. I mean, we don't. So it's like, where are we going to go?
Sure.
And then what does that look like for my kids as far as stability, school, all of those things play into, a big part of it. I mean, the thought of having to go to a shelter or live with, I just was heart-wrenching. So I appreciate when you stopped in and, stepped in and helped push the foreclosure date off. And then, we made this agreement and you were able to work with me on it. So that was something that I really honestly never expected someone would step in and do by that point.
So Lynn, on that note, I mean, there are times when I'll step in and we'll formulate that kind of unique solution for somebody in that situation. But I felt good about it. And, it worked out in the end for both of us. And again, I'm just glad that you and your family, right? You and your kiddos. I think your dog, right? You have a dog.
Yes, we have a dog. He's all bark and no bite.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you all got to stay in your home.
We are. I am great. I appreciate it so much. There really aren't words for that. Because it was a huge relief to know that was done and over and not something that I had to worry about. I could take a breath and relax. My blood pressure even went down because I was so stressed over it all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would be too. I remember, like I said, I lost everything at one point, and like, where are you going to eat? Where are you going to sleep? I mean, it's very stressful.
It is. And if it was just me, I mean, it wouldn't have been ideal, but it would have been less stressful. But when you have these kids, it's, important for stability. And so, I've been able to turn things around and finances and get things caught up. And if I wouldn't have been able to do that without your help.
Well, you're back in the win column now, Lynn.
Yes, I am. And I do remember that it was very, we were waiting to sign the papers for reinstatement.
Sure.
And I remember you said you had another client that you were working with, but that they weren't able to do what they needed to do. And you had gone to see him because his auction was that morning. And you said you went and found him. He was laying on the floor crying because his house had sold. And I was like, that could have been me.
Yeah. Look, Lynn, I'm here to help whoever needs it, wants it, but they have to be an active participant,
Correct.
right? And it doesn't matter. I mean, I could sit here and give you the truth and tell you, hey, look, here's your options and you've got to do something, because if you don't, this is inevitably what's waiting for you. And, you know, he quit answering his phone. I mean, I tried to help them up until the end. They wanted to keep the house or wanted their lender just to cancel the auction. It's not going to happen. No. And so if you do that, you're at the mercy of whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay at a cash auction. For how's sake, they can't walk, see, inspect, or, you know, return if they don't like it. So yeah, I ended up going over to his house. I knocked on his door and I took a chance. Nobody answered. And I opened, hey, are you in here? And he said, yeah, I'm in this other room. And I never saw anybody in that bad a shape emotionally, you know, psychologically.
That broken, yeah.
And he laid on the floor and he just cried. And I just sat there with him for a little while. And he mentioned he had this other property. And I said, okay, so you're not totally out, right? You can go to that other, it was just land. There was no structure. And I said, so you can go there. You can try to build something on it. Even if you park like a fifth wheel or whatever on it, so you're not totally out. And I stayed with a while, and I wanted to speak hope into him, because he didn't have any in that moment.
Well, and that really resonated, you know, I mean, I already knew the things, but what it really resonated is like, wow, that could be me, you know? I mean, I had my bankruptcy paperwork filed, but you know, that's only a short-term solution. You still have to come up with the money. So no, I was very grateful for all of your help, and that you disregarded your mentor's advice. And yeah, no, it was fabulous. My kids are very appreciative, and I mean, they weren't aware of anything that was going on, but without you, we would be, I don't know.
Well, I'm grateful to know I could make a difference for you guys. And just to give the audience some context, I did have someone tell me to offer Lynn some money to leave her house and just take over the existing loan. And I remember pulling up to her house, and I was just at a moral crossroads. Like, I had this big dilemma, and I was like, man, something just does not feel right about it. And, you know, when you have like a mentor, somebody that you look up to who gives you certain advice, you want to feel like, hey, what they're telling you is probably more credible than what you're thinking, because, hey, they're older and wiser and they've been there, and they've got to be smarter than me. But in my heart of hearts, when I just knew it was wrong. And I remember, God, please tell me, how do I serve this family? How do I serve Lynn? How do I serve her children? Because kicking them out of their home, and it didn't seem right. In my heart, it just felt wrong. And I said, okay, let's just go inside, service mindset, servant's heart. And we're going to see how we can keep Lynn and her kiddos in the home. And you know what? That's what we did. And I sleep just fine at night knowing that. Hey, everyone. That's all for today. Thanks for listening. If you or someone you know is facing foreclosure, don't hesitate to reach out or share this with them. Take action by liking, following, and subscribing. Thank you.